Yes, and my name is Mateos Alvarez. I'm the Executive Director of the Aurora Economic Opportunity Coalition in Northwest Aurora. Glad to be here. We are a convener organization. We exist to bring many small organizations in Northwest Aurora together to build power and to make change.
If you could please describe your community a little bit to us. What are the topics or issues that the community thinks are the more important for them? And can you also tell us about how you support your community members, in particular those who are most affected by the inequalities, to be able to update their power?
From my standpoint, I just want to give a little context of Northwest Aurora and the Colfax corridor on the eastern part of Colfax corridor. Again, to give context, our community is made up of 160 different languages are spoken, customs are practiced, and faiths are practiced in our community, and it's a 5 by 5 mile kind of radius. So you can just imagine the diversity in that community. But at the same time, with that richness of diversity, it's very economically deprived. It's one of the most deprived areas in all of the state of Colorado, in the region in the Mountain West as well. It's also the gateway to many migrant and immigrant refugees who come into the Metro Denver region, and so it's their second home. It's their beginnings as they come to the state of Colorado. So while there's a lot of beautiful diversity, culture, food, there's also a lot of need in Northwest Aurora economically, and so there's a lot of challenges when it comes to having a voice and to building power within that particular community. And our community is under a lot of stress as well, because there's a lot of development, there's a lot of change taking place within Northwest Aurora, and so we find ourselves in somewhat of a crossroads in terms of, as communities who have been there for such a long time, what does our future look like over the next 10 years? And so we're all feeling, I think, the pressure. And I think for the Aurora Economic Opportunity Coalition, we've invested in becoming a convener organization and bringing lots of small nonprofits together to really think about power in a different way, as Maisha already stated. Many of our organizations, while we do great work, most of it is focused on service provider type of services, and we really need to make that shift to do community engagement, empower our communities to have a voice, and to do the change that Maisha already mentioned here. So for us, we're working with some very great organizations along the Colfax corridor that you heard up here that are sitting next to me. But I know Gabriela Jacobo is in the audience. The Resident Leadership Council is also a very powerful force that's working with us. Caitlin Matthews is in here as well, Food Justice Northwest Aurora. So I think for us and for the Aurora Economic Opportunity Coalition, it's trying to work with all the folks who are on stage here and really think about how we build power from a community standpoint, so we don't get pushed out and we don't get gentrified, and that we benefit from the changes around the transit system. We benefit from affordable housing, but if we don't have a voice, our communities are in serious jeopardy. Just to answer the question, for us, again, being a convener organizations of many small organizations in Aurora along the Colfax corridor, I think really answers the question that's being asked here. Among all of the change that's taking place and the rapid kind of shifting of the environment in Northwest Aurora in the Colfax corridor makes it tough for organizations who are small, who are volunteers, to not feel overwhelmed and to feel alone, to try to kind of stay in the neighborhood. And so what we've been able to do is bring small entities together to be able to build a broader and stronger voice in order to speak up on behalf of the community. And I think what's really, really important from my standpoint and an organizer standpoint, get a little technical here, is the technical assistance that our organization is able to provide to small organizations that they wouldn't otherwise get, like the fundamentals of community organizing, the difference between service provider and community engagement, and systems change and policy change and that type of thing, and bringing in the experts to help us think bigger strategically about how to build power and to invest in community wealth building initiatives. That's not possible without organizations like the organizations that are up here and those that I mentioned earlier, you know, all inside of Northwest Aurora. And so that's been very, very helpful. And then I'll just say this as well. For us, it's really about two types of power. There's organized money and there's organized people. In Northwest Aurora, we don't have a lot of money. And that's just generally speaking because of who our community is. And to give you context, we've recently had about 10,000 migrants migrate into the Metro Denver area, mostly Denver and Northwest Aurora. A lot of them landed right in front of our building. The Denver side has received about $15 million over the last 9 months to address the migrant response. In Northwest Aurora, the Colfax corridor has received almost $0. And so we've had to turn inward and work with each other to solve some of these issues. And it's been very strenuous on our community, but we keep moving forward with this work, rely on each other. But that's where foundations and those who fund community organizations and to do this work, and those who say, you ought to invest in art organizations over the long term, over 5 years, over 10 years, so that we can push back on these forces and have the time and the resources and the effort to build power within our communities.
The last question for all of you. You all have shown the love in action that you have by supporting and working for your communities and continuing to push for necessary change in East Colfax. There are many other folks here in the audience who are trying to do similar things in their communities and who are also facing the same challenges. What would be some parting wisdom that you would like to share with these change makers?
Yeah, and my closing words will be to the audience here. Thank you all for having us here at Colorado Health Foundation. And I would imagine that many of us, or most of us in this room, for one reason or the other, will drive to and from Denver International Airport. Well, Northwest Aurora, the Colfax corridor, they're on I-225 in Colfax, or I-70 and I-225. Just send Northwest Aurora some love when you're going there over to the airport. We would appreciate it because we have a very tough road moving forward in terms of what happens to our community and how ready we will be. And so we will be in the fight. But again, if your support is so important to us. And then I think the item that I will close with is that I would really hope that many of us who are in the room to consider investing in fundamentals of community organizing and community engagement together with the service provider type of work that we all do, because there's only so many resources that can be allocated, and by investing in people and building people power, it takes us that much further. And again, it really sets that power within the community that lives there that can help drive the change in the future that we want. So again, thank you for having me and all of us. This is my family, and for all of you who invited us here. So thank you.